Backcountry Colorado, hiking, backpacking.
I did a lot of marathons. I was convinced to do some ultras.
Climbing, and I do filming and photography.
I just like the ultras because I love the community. I just think that everybody is so nice, whether they're the first place finishers or, you know, us that kind of mosey along.
Hey everybody, we are at the Farrell Mountain Company in Northwest Denver. We've got some adventure racers sitting around the table. We've got a multi-sport rock climbing aficionado sitting next to me. We've got the owner of the outdoor company around the table. We've got Cory, Nick, and myself, Russ Rizzo, and we are recording episode 5 here. First off, we want to start off talking with Jimmy Funkhouser. He is. Let me just tick off the list of things that you do.
Yeah.
You're the owner of Farrell Mountain Company. You're a new outdoor recreation store here in Northwest Denver. You quit your job recently to open this store, which is exciting. I want to hear about that. You claim to have the largest map room. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Largest map room in all of Colorado.
No. It's actually a very small room. So largest collection of fully featured Colorado trail maps.
Excellent. And you are also training for your first ultra marathon?
Well, actually not my first. Well, it depends on your definition of ultra marathon. I think some people might scoff at calling a 50K an ultra, but I've done 2 50Ks, and I've actually DNF'd 2 100s. So
You've given it a go.
I've been out there.
And what are you training for?
The Colorado 200. So we're down to 9 days left. So at this point, it's just a lot of sleep. So the training is pretty much over for the most part. Just stay healthy and sleep a lot.
Excellent. And so with us, we have Erik Sanders. He's a 27-year-old engineer living in Golden, Colorado. He does adventure racing in his free time with Team Yogaslackers. They're based out of Colorado and Oregon. He is training for, or he's about to take part in the Cowboy Tough endurance adventure race in Wyoming. I'm figuring out my angles here. And you set a course record on a race that is near and dear to our hearts because Sherpa John, one of our dispatch crew, puts on that race, the Niwot Challenge.
We did.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that race was pretty fun. 50-mile off-trail, on-trail, ultra running race, 17,000 feet of gain. It was pretty hardcore, but yeah, I had a good time out there. You're finding books with navigating with map and compass, and it was a good time.
And we met Erik actually at our first ever Story Slam, which he won, by the way. So if listeners out there, if you haven't listened to episode 1, make sure to check that out after you listen to this episode 5 here, because he spends quite the tale of doing an adventure race in the Brazilian jungle. So check that out. We also have around the table with us Katie Ferrington. She's a 34-year-old mom of 2 young girls. She's a physical therapist living in Lafayette, Colorado. And she also does adventure racing in her free time. That's going to be a topic of today's show, is we're going to dig into what adventure racing is and why people like Katie do that. And Katie, you're also starting to plan your own adventure race. Tell us a little bit about that.
Correct, yeah. On August 6th and 7th, the first annual Never Summer Adventure Race out of Grand Lake, Colorado. It's going to be a beginner 6-hour race and an advanced 24-hour race. So I'm pretty excited about that. And Katie also took part in the Niwot Challenge, and if I'm not mistaken, you're the first female finisher? Yes.
And with a little bit of needling involved here, let's explain to Sherpa that he needs to step up his game on how hard the course is.
It was a pretty tough course for me. Without the help of Erik and our other teammate friend Ryan, I don't know if I would have crossed the South Platte River without them. It was a pretty cold, rough river at that point.
So what was that? Yeah, what happened?
Sherpa John actually, he recommended against it. So we were the first ones to get to this river crossing, and we come kind of flying into this. We knew it was going to be a river crossing, but we didn't know how serious it was going to be. And we got down there, and Sherpa John's like, "Oh, I don't think you guys should go. You know, it's not safe enough." And Ryan and I kind of started looking at the river. And, you know, I've done quite a few big river crossings and some of the ARs we've done, and, you know, there's nobody around for safety at all. And this one, it was moving pretty good, and we looked at a spot that was a little bit narrower and just decided to give it a shot and cross the river as three, Ryan, Katie, and me. And it was so deep that you had to swim. So we were kind of swimming upriver. You want to swim up kind of against the current, so make your way across so you don't get pushed too far down.
So it was deep enough that you were swimming in there.
Yeah, definitely deep enough that
I
you were
saw a
swimming.
video.
We would've
They
pushed around.
were absolutely insane. Yeah.
So yeah, we made it across, and then, of course, we start getting rain and hail no less than 15 minutes after we got out of this frigid water. So we were freezing for the next 10 miles of the race and like just shivering, trying to keep warm by moving. So
And we get to the top, Eric and Ryan. We're warm now. What about you, Katie? No, I'm still not warm.
And so, Katie, you did the 9-watt challenge, and you're planning your own race, and you also do adventure racing for Team Journey, which is mostly based out of Colorado. Is that right?
That's right. There's a couple teammates in Salt Lake also, but mostly Colorado.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to hearing a little bit about that. And to my immediate left is somebody that our dispatch listeners know already, Jason Antin. He was with us on episode, what are we calling it, 3? Maybe 4. That's So Boulder. So, listeners, if you haven't checked that out, make sure to check out the That's So Boulder. You can hear about Jason taking a whole crew of people up one of the Flatirons for a dinner, table and chairs included. So, pretty cool stuff.
Nice.
Jason, we brought you in on the show to talk a little bit about adventure racing and multi-sport is a term that I'm actually learning for the first time, even though I do some triathlon, so I guess technically that's multi-sport. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Russ. I mean, it all comes down to that elephant. And this is something that Eric and I talked about extensively on our adventure about 2 weekends ago. But I found that multi-sporting helps you achieve that elephant a little easier than just single sporting. And that elephant is something that can only be achieved one bite at a time. And so by putting a bunch of complex working parts into the adventure, that makes the elephant a little bit bigger and makes each one of those bites a little bit more satisfying.
Delicious. I'm getting hungry already over here. And Jason works for Gociety, if you don't remember him from the last episode already. And he has a child on the way. How many weeks are we in?
4.5.
4.5 weeks away from having his first daughter. That's excellent. We're going to talk a little bit about multi-sport. Give us an example. I know you and Eric sitting to your left did something pretty crazy the other weekend.
Yeah, we got, a couple of years ago, we watched this really well-produced video from a guy named David Gonzalez out of Jackson, Wyoming, and it's called The Picnic, also known as the Grand Teton Triathlon. And it's an epic journey starting in Jackson where you bike 23 miles to Jenny Lake, swim across Jenny Lake, run up and down the Grand through some technical terrain, and then reverse it all the way back to Jackson where hopefully pizza and beer is awaiting.
Well, that sounds pretty cool. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in this episode. So we've got your setup there. We're going to talk a little bit about adventure racing. We're going to talk about multi-sport with these guys. And first of all, we want to jump in a little bit about the map room that we're sitting in here. Jimmy, tell us your story. Why did you create this place?
Yeah.
And maybe explain where we're sitting. Maybe give us a little bit of a visual.
Sure. Yeah, we're sitting right now in our map room or our adventure planning room. So we have virtually every Colorado trail map that we've been able to get our hands on. We're always looking for new stuff. So I'll pick your guys' brains before you leave. But we're working very hard to build the basically most comprehensive and useful trail map collection in the city. And that's what we're all about, is creating adventure for people in this space. The vision for this space was to give an opportunity for people to come in and aspirationally build, out their weekend or their summer or their next trip. And what we found is most people don't buy maps for a trip that they're considering. They buy maps aspirationally. They see a map and it's a place that they've thought about, they've wondered about, and have always considered as something they'd wanted to do, and they leave with that map. And it's fun. That's what's fun for us here is to create that adventure and see the, that light go off for people. Because when they leave with that map, we know we've increased the likelihood that they're going to see that place, and that's important to us.
Well, I'll tell you, you've got a map lover sitting to your left. I mean, I'm sure everybody in this room is a map lover, but particularly Nick. Is this your first time here, Nick?
This definitely is.
What are you thinking?
I absolutely love this place. Having spent some time working for Adventure 16 out in Southern California, who, to my knowledge, is probably the only remaining competitor to REI, but it still has that sort of homespun mountain store feel to it.
Right.
Walking into this store and especially coming back here to the adventure planning room, I kind of felt like walking home a little bit. I only missed the campfire incense.
Yeah, and that's an important part of it for us is try to build that more curated experience for people, the one-on-one experience that's hard to find sometimes in any retail, not just outdoor retail.
And tell us your origin story a little bit, because you've got an interesting one.
Yeah, so I came from a very corporate experience, and
Are you allowed to name your former employer on the air?
I probably could, but we'll pass. And
How would you characterize your former employer?
large specialty retail, very
All right.
corporate.
So
Been around for a very long time.
fair to say you had a cushy job.
Cushy, worked hard, but very comfortable, I think. And I think more than anything, I just wanted consistency between my personal and my professional life. Creating adventure for myself and other people has been my passion for a very long time. And it's hard to do that in a corporate environment. Adventure is the antithesis of the corporate environment. And I think more than anything, I wanted that authenticity in my life, the consistency between personal and professional, and just decided to make it happen. And Farrell Mountain Co. was the result.
So you were telling me a little bit earlier about it was New Year's was approaching, and this crazy idea came in your head.
Yeah, it was a conversation that I had with some friends, and a buddy asked me, well, what do you want to do this year? And I said, because I'm not a big resolution guy. In my opinion, if you want to do something, just do it. Don't make a resolution. And I said, this year I want to do whatever it is I would do if I was not afraid to do it. And the very first thought that I had after that was I would leave my job immediately. And literally 90 days later, actually less than 90 days later, we grand opened here. So it was fast, it was quick.
Amazingly fast.
Yeah, it was painful, but we made it happen. And I couldn't be more proud of everyone that's here and where we're at now.
How are you feeling at this part in the stage?
Retired. I know that sounds like lunacy, but coming from a culture and an environment where everything was exhausting, every decision was exhausting, every conversation was exhausting, everything that I experience here is refreshing and inspiring. I surround myself. When I hire people here, I tell everyone I hire people that inspire me. And when you're surrounded constantly by people that inspire you through their adventure and through their kindness and just being interesting. It's hard to feel like you're working when you're in that environment constantly. And not just the people that work here, the people that walk in. The people that walk in here are the types of people that are creating adventure in their life or want to create adventure in their life. And that's inspiring to me. And to live that every day it's hard to feel like you're punching the clock.
Was that something you've had in mind for a long time? Like starting your own store? It wasn't just something you just popped up,
And
in
specifically?
December, but
Yeah, so it's funny that I have some friends that joke that I opened up an outdoor gear shop to satiate my map fetish, and there's maybe some truth to that. But no, I think and we took a lot of heat, honestly, early in the game from vendor reps and such, that we were dedicating so much space to a non-revenue driving thing, maps and adventure planning. It's kind of fleeting. It's hard to put a dollar amount on that. We could throw jackets in here and hard goods and sell them, sure, but we want to create an experience. And that is part of what my vision was, is how can we create an experience that you can't get somewhere else? And curating the space in that way, inch by inch, was something that I wanted to do very early in the process.
And in addition to owning a really kick-ass outdoor store, you're also training for a big race coming up, the Colorado 200. How's that going?
Yeah, it's been great. Training's been great. My goal throughout the training was to stay healthy. It's been very aggressive. Michelle Yates has been my coach through the whole process, and she's been fantastic. But the training was very aggressive. And when I looked at the training plan from the start, I actually, to be fair, I told her from the start, I said, are you going to be upset if I increase the volume a little bit after a couple weeks? And that was stupid to even think about, The training's been hard, but my main goal through the training was to get to this point healthy. healthy and still having fun. And I'm there. We're 9 days out and I'm healthy. I'm wouldn't say I'm rested, but I'm going to fix that over the next 9 days. And really excited for the journey. Running to me, I'm actually not a big runner. I don't call myself a runner. I don't consider myself a runner. I don't even say that I love running. I love adventure, and that's where the ultra experience really connects for me. I got into ultras after hating my first marathon, and a buddy said, well, you should just go run a 50K. And I said, you don't understand. I don't like running. He said, no, it's different. It's a different experience.
Yeah.
And that's what I found in that community is a real passion and sense for adventure, and that's what I love. I'm not a runner. I'll never be a runner, but anytime I can get just buried in the mountains and be scared or be suffering or be struggling, I enjoy that. Maybe not in the moment, but it's fulfilling, and that's kind of what the Colorado 200 means to me, is kind of the pinnacle of adventure and the pinnacle of potentially suffering.
So who around the table ran the 200? You did, Troy.
I did that.
Yeah, anybody else? All right. Well, you mentioned adventure, and so one thing we want to talk about today is just adventure racing. I'm not even sure how I would explain it. Nick, you were talking a little bit earlier, what images you had running through your mind.
I just remember when I was really, I can't say really younger, but in my late teens, early 20s, I just had this fascination with adventure racing because, it didn't really seem that intimidating from a non-athlete perspective, but here was a bunch of people in the jungle doing some badass things. And so there was the classic ones out there like the Xterra series and the Eco Challenge. And for a while, I think there was even, you could watch them on TV.
Is this true?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
How would you do that?
They were on Discovery Channel. I mean, they were huge. And that's when adventure racing kind of had its heyday, was during when it was on Discovery Channel. There's lots of sponsor money. And Mark Burnett, he's a well-known...
He did Survivor, right?
Yeah, it was actually after Eco Challenge. He came up with the idea for Survivor, and that's kind of when adventure racing kind of went down slightly.
So Survivor killed adventure racing.
Basically, but that's also where adventure racing kind of started the reality TV scene. I think
it's all your fault.
It's all our fault.
You blame me for the Kardashians? Is that what you're saying?
Unfortunately, I mean, maybe there's a link there. I don't know. I hope not.
Well, Erik Sanders and Katie Ferrington, we're really excited to have you here. We want to learn a little bit more about what's involved with adventure racing. Katie, I want to start with you. How did you get into this? Why do you do this? And explain what exactly it is.
Yeah, I got into it. I was doing triathlons, like a lot of adventure racers. The
Boulder Beer.
Boulder Beer. And someone had invited me to do an adventure race, and it turned out I was pretty good at it. So got more and more into it. But I mean, to this day, I've been doing it for about 8-9 years now, and just that adventure, finding adventure with a team is so important to me. That camaraderie that happens with when you're out in the woods for 3-4 days plus is just really, really neat. Working together, the mental challenge of the navigation, the strategy, just how to keep a team moving, surviving is way more interesting than the sport of triathlon to me.
So what are the minimum qualifications to be an adventure race? Like, what do you have to have? You named a few there. Orienteering, that's always a part of it.
Yep.
It's always a team sport, is that right? You're always doing it as a team.
Usually, yeah.
What else? Multiple days?
They start that you can find 3-hour races. Midwest is pretty big for having a lot of 3-hour races just to get those new people off the couch that are intimidated by the longer races. 3, 6-hour, 12 hours, and then they go up from there.
Okay. How does it work with hours? Are there loops, or it's not like distance driven? It's time driven.
Yeah, you show up to a race and there's a 3-hour cutoff or a 24-hour cutoff, and the race director you'll get handed your set of maps with a bunch of checkpoints plotted, or sometimes you have to plot your own points, and you then work with your team to strategize your route choices, and then you just have to be back at the finish line within that set time, and you want to get as many checkpoints along the way, which checkpoints are the orienteering flags, those orange and white flags that you're trying to find.
So
and
go ahead.
And I think the key difference between adventure racing and any other endurance sport is the navigation side of it. Like, you can have an Xterra triathlon where it has mountain biking, swimming, and running, but you're following a marked course, and you don't have to. You don't have the option to go in the wrong direction for 10 miles if you're going in. If you have a mental lapse and forget to take a right turn on the trail, or maybe you're not going on a trail. Maybe you're bushwhacking for 5 miles through the woods. And I think that's the key difference between adventure racing is the navigation side.
So there's no marked trails.
There's no marked
No.
course in adventure racing.
Cool.
You have a map, and you either pre-plot those points or they're plotted on the map for you, and you basically decide your route to get there. There's always sections that are maybe off limits, like they say you can't take this road or this trail is off limits due to permitting or something like that. But basically, it's up to you to decide how to get from point A to point B.
And when does that
I
happen?
see.
Does that happen, in the weeks leading up to it? You guys get to point it out, or do you show up there and they're like, here's the points you need to hit, figure it out, and that's part of what's built into your time budget?
Generally, you can get the maps at the start of the race, or you can get the maps like a day before the race. And you generally get the maps a day before the race in like the multi-day races because you're covering so much ground, so you have to plan out. You're tracing lines and your routes that you think are going to go through. But yeah, you never get your maps more than a day or so ahead of time.
Wow. So it's not like us for Colorado 200 where you have the whole map and it's already downloaded offline and you just kind of know what's coming up. Like while it's happening, you're basically figuring it out.
Exactly, and that's part of what makes navigators. Just part of what differentiates really good navigators from, moderate or mediocre navigators, stuff like that, is being able to make those decisions on the fly and understanding the terrain, what you're reading on the map. Like you really have to understand. You really have to understand maps. So I actually really appreciate this space here in Farrell.
You got a new fan there.
I think that's just inherent with adventure racing. Adventure racers, people that do adventure racing kind of go to that way in the sport because they love maps and they love being able to make their own choice of where they want to go on a course. Maybe they like technical terrain and they're going to scramble up this steeper section, whereas somebody else might try to go around that. But it's all up to you and the course, what you want to do. So it's kind of cool. And yeah, a lot of adventure racers they're diehard map junkies. So.
Well, so what do you guys have? Tell us a little bit about the Cowboy Tough coming up. What does that involve?
Yeah, so it's a 3.5-day race, start and finish in Casper, Wyoming. This is the 4th year in running. All adventure races have to have paddling, biking, usually mountain biking, and trekking of some form with the navigation. A lot of times there's a ropes component as well. So this particular race is going to cover, I think, 420 miles in 3.5 days. Teams of 4 from all over the world. It is a qualifier for the World Championship race. And then really exciting is next year is the 5th year, and it actually is the World Championship race. The first time the World Championships is coming to the U.S. is this particular race next year.
And that 420 miles is if you don't get lost.
So for interested people, how do you go about finding adventure races or getting involved in adventure racing?
There's lots of different websites and methods to get involved in the sport. And I think it's pretty rare that people just all of a sudden jump into adventure racing. I think a lot of people, like I jumped into mountain biking and then I got into triathlon and road biking, and then I found adventure racing through one of my buddies. But I think somewhat similar, but yeah, if people want to get into it, there's lots of different modes. There's out east, you'd actually think there wouldn't be much adventure racing out there, but I think that's where the most easy accessible races are, from 3 hours to 12-hour races. There's lots of races out east. I don't know why adventure racing doesn't seem to be as big out in the west. I think it's just because people like to go out and kind of create their own adventures, but people kind of have all the equipment they need to do adventure racing out in Colorado, I've noticed, and I think the navigation side kind of scares people off.
Well,
I'm
Katie's-
surprised that there's not more of a crossover between ultra running and adventure racing. You rarely hear somebody chat, just when you're chatting with people on the trail. I don't hear a lot about that.
Katie's trying to fix that.
Yeah,
That's-
let's
I am.
do that.
Tell us about
I'm
that.
like, I got to do this.
Yeah. So tell us, you decided to put on your own race, and you're really gearing it towards kind of entry level.
Yep, the 6-hour race is geared towards entry level. We want to grow the sport. It's an amazing sport. We love it, and people are intimidated by 24-hour races or plus. So, I wanted to have a shorter race to get those people that don't know what it's about out there. But Nick, to answer your question also about the finding the races, the United States Adventure Racing Association, usara.org, is a good place to find races. And then, I think they're less out here because of permitting issues. I think we want to protect our lands a lot more out here.
Yeah.
And
that
so
makes sense.
since I'm working with the forest.
You know about that.
Yeah, the permits are a little harder to get out here, and especially special use permits to allow off trail stuff. And that's the big thing with adventure racing and orienteering is you want to be able to go off trail, and they don't want to let you.
Well, because the East Coast just says, "Go ahead, trample
Yeah.
all over our land."
What do you feel like is that a reasonable position for them to be taking, or is that like, they're just applying a general policy to something that adventure races are respectful of the environment, and even though you're cutting through there, you're still like not leaving anything behind?
Yeah, there's actually a ton of studies out in Europe that investigate the impact of orienteering, and it's a very low impact sport on the environment. So we just basically need to educate our local Forest Service people and get some studies done out here that it is a low impact sport. I think it is a little unreasonable to not allow us off trail.
And a little known fact here: Katie and Eric have been teammates, and now they're going to be competitors. So this would be a
We
good
got a
venue
rivalry
for
we're gonna have to follow
some
up on.
smack talk in here.
Who's gonna
What do you
win?
got, Katie?
Yeah. Well, we were teammates. Eric was saying earlier that it's a small community, so we all know each other, and so when someone loses a teammate or you need a position filled, you kind of know who to call and who might be available. So I was able to step on a team, on one of Eric's team, to go to Belize in February. So that's when we were teammates. But usually we're more competitors, so we're used to that.
And Eric, your team is, I know just from the stat you gave me, you said 10th, and there's a ranking system.
Yep.
So 10th in the world.
Yep. It's the Adventure Racing World Series is what they call it.
So you guys are intense and getting after it.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of made it a goal, and I don't know, we don't have necessarily a goal of how high we want to go, but we always are trying to push ourselves in this realm of athletes. And my three other teammates are definitely multi-sport athletes. We love to get out there and just push ourselves in these crazy landscapes, and so we like competing against other people that like to do that stuff too. And that's Adventure Racing World Series is really where you find those people that just want to get out there. So
And we should mention that you guys are not professional athletes. You have regular lives and regular jobs. That's right.
yep, I'm an engineer in Golden.
And how about you, Katie?
A physical therapist in Lafayette.
There's no money in adventure racing anymore, sadly.
Did there used to be?
Yeah, back in 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when they were on Eco Challenge and stuff like that, there was quite a bit of money in there. But yeah, not so much anymore. There's only a few teams that have fully sponsored athletes.
So basically, you get what your entry fee covered and your gear covered.
Yeah,
Those are the
we're
benefits?
on. I think Journey and us, Team Yogaslackers, we're a sponsored team, but we definitely aren't making money. Like, I'm still putting money into the sport. We have a bike sponsor and some clothing sponsors and stuff like that, but for the most part, we're still putting money into it. But yeah, we don't. As far as our team goes, generally our entries covered and stuff.
How do you guys feel about the potential of the growth of the sport? Because ultra running is in a weird place where it kind of grew a lot pretty quickly, and now it's like bittersweet that it's as big as it is, which still is not very big. And how do you feel about adventure racing and that? Do you want it to get to that point and start to? Obviously, you do because you're directing a race.
Yeah, I think that it grew a lot, late 90s, mid 90s, and it has dropped a lot with the exit of Eco Challenge and Mark Burnett, and also the economic situation in the country, because there is a lot of gear required. A lot of people have a hard time just jumping into the sport. So, now that the country's in a better place, people's finances are better, I think there is potential for growth, especially at places out here, out west. It's growing out east. There's a lot more races, a lot more of the 3 to 6 hour races. I think if we can do more of those out here, get newbies coming in, I think then the 24-hour races plus we'll see an increase as well.
And I think multi-sport in general, I feel like maybe it's just me, but I've kind of noticed maybe within the last year, a lot more ultra runners and stuff are starting to bike and starting to do these different things because, ultra running does beat your body up. I think running is one of the most it's one of the most, it puts a lot of pressure on your joints and a lot of strain on your body. And, being able to bike and kayak or swim and like being able to mix up sports, it's more of a longevity to athletics and health or whatever you're interested in trying to do in the outdoors. So I think multi-sport, I think it can only go up, adventure racing, and, let's hope, at least I hope it does continue to grow. So.
Cool. What do you think about that, Jason?
I think that the whole multi-sporting is really just giving out my big secret of just being mediocre at a bunch of things. So, as much as I'd like to say, I'm
how
good
I
at a
feel.
bunch of things,
I would be perfect for this.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's just.
I'm like average at a lot of things.
Yeah, or good, moderately
good.
I can
at a lot kind of keep up in a few sports.
It's an excuse not to actually have to put in all those training hours for one thing.
I like
and
that.
deliver. That's the hard part.
That makes a good adventure racer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being mediocre in a lot of things.
Yeah, Eric and I were joking about that several times in our last outing. Just, crossing over, lots of sports, and superior mediocrity.
I ended up kind of getting to witness that whole thing go down on, or start to go down on social media, and I'm very suspicious now whenever I see you invite anybody out for innocuous sounding things like picnics.
Anybody want to go for? He put a Facebook post up. It said, "Anybody want to go for a picnic?"
But it's good. It's code, right? Like if you read,
it was funny to hear the
responses-
response. Like people had no idea that there was even anything going on. Like, oh, I'm having my own picnic, and then some people understood what you're talking about.
Guys like Eric and a few others they knew what was going on.
And you did arrange a picnic, so you and Eric went out.
We did, yeah.
What happened?
It's one of those things. You just. I gave a friend of mine a hard time, and she'll remain nameless, but doers do, right? And I've been talking about this picnic thing that David Gonzalez schemed up back in 2011. And I've been saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah, this season, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. Hey, Jay, did you do that picnic yet? No, yeah, next year.
I've been talking about it a lot.
Next year, yeah, a lot of talk. And then just had this one weekend, some plans fell through, and I was going to go up there with my wife and with her support, do it solo. And I'm like, I bet I could get Eric to do this with me. So
He's just crazy enough.
I said, you have to have those guys in your Rolodex. Like, the crazy enough and definitely will do it. I sent a few feelers out. And I think the first time I met Eric was last summer. He was out at the Golden Mountain Runners run on Tuesday night at Mountain Toad, and he was running with like a 60-meter rope in his pack. Just doing like a casual 6-miler.
That's an intense run, bro.
Like looking over conversation pace with an extra, 15, 20 pounds in his pack. And I'm like, all right, this guy's legit. He'll come have a picnic with me. So next thing you know, we're in Wyoming.
So I want to hear about Beat Monday, of course. Oh yeah, Boulder Beer. Thank you, Boulder Beer, for your kind donation to our podcast, Dispatch Radio. Check us out, dispatchradio.com. Okay, plug over. Tell us. So, Jason, you're an interesting fellow. You like to maximize your weekend. You have a startup company. You say you don't have a lot of vacation time, so you like to maximize your weekend. And you came up with this Beat Monday concept.
That's very true, Russ. So, people in Colorado, especially, are very good at burning the candle at both ends. And so this Beat Monday concept was actually dreamed up with my I guess business partner and adventure partner Mike Chambers. He and I went to college together out in St. Lawrence University in upstate New York, and have stayed really close and kind of constantly dreaming up these little adventures. We get out about once a year for a little outing. And the Beat Monday concept was originally a list of challenges that we think we could each achieve together as a team in and around our jobs running nonprofits and startups in the meantime. And from that spun what is now a website and is now this challenge to achieve the biggest possible event you can have with the time constraints of leaving your desk at 5 p.m. on a Friday and returning at Monday at 9 a.m. So you have 64 hours to completely redefine what it means to be a weekend warrior. And so we have challenges that stem from Mount Rainier to Iceland to Ecuador to Hispaniola to Brazil to Munich. The list goes on.
Are you listing things that you have actually done?
Only one of those have been achieved
Rainier.
thus far.
Rainier.
Mount Rainier.
All right.
Yeah.
You did Rainier, and your friend we should mention is in Boston, so
Yeah.
he's not here local, so it's a little harder.
Oh, he got totally crushed by that red eye. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Mike and I think Mike puts as many as he can on the East Coast to just totally crush me on Monday morning, and conversely, I put as many trips to the West as possible, so he can have as many airport showers as possible for his 9 a.m. meetings. But yeah, so we've got trips planned all over the world. We've factored in logistical and endurance-based and cultural-based challenges that'll completely drive us to the edge. And obviously, failure is imminent at some point. We're going to do everything we can to avoid it.
What do you mean by cultural challenge?
No, great question, Corey. So instead of just saying, "Hey, we're going to go do this huge endurance feat," part of what we're doing is, people say, "Hey, you're going to Ecuador. Why are you going to do that in only 64 hours? Why wouldn't you take a week?" So a big piece of our challenge is to kind of absorb or learn something in that small time frame as well. So not only just saying, "Hey, we're going to go run this huge thing or climb this big mountain," it's learning something from the people that we're interacting with and being kind of aware of that in that short time frame.
And now they're fluent in Spanish.
Yeah, that's a goal. Nick.
This is sounding a lot like Tim Ferriss, like 4-hour week. Just maximum efficiency, but taken to the outdoor lifestyle.
And to the extreme. It's like use all of your time instead of the smallest amount of your time.
Yeah, well, that too, I guess. Yeah. You've got to tell us about your trip up the nose too, because that just sounds insane.
Yeah, so I mean, everything starts with clicking that button that says confirm your plane tickets, and I got my good buddy Wade Morris lives out in now in Golden. He was a Boulderite for a while, but he revoked his B card recently. We're sitting at Ozo Coffee doing our thing, drinking a latte, and Wade's a pretty experienced big wall climber, and I'd yet to climb a big wall in Yosemite. I said, "Hey Wade, what are we gonna do this fall? What do you think about going up a route?" He's like, "Yeah, absolutely. It sounds great. Let's do Lurking Fear or Zodiac. We'll do it in 5 days. It'll be awesome. We'll get a chance to really see the valley." I said, we got a little problem there. This whole startup thing, I got like 2 days to get this done. What do you think? He's like, "All right, we can work with that. What about the nose? Can you do like 3 or 4 days?" I'm like, "I've always wanted to do the nose. I got 2 days. What do you think?" So 2 months out, booked tickets, and 2 months later, we succeeded. So yeah, nose in a day with my buddy Wade.
Not everybody that's listening has any concept.
Yeah,
of
Phil's
when we
don't know
say
what that
the
means.
nose
or
is.
Phil, the listeners.
I mean, this is absolutely, listeners, this is insane. Like a normal human being cannot possibly, even with aid gear, climb this thing. Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So just to backtrack a little bit, the nose is, depending on who's writing the guidebook, a 30 or 31 pitch route up the most prominent face of El Capitan in Yosemite Valley, California. It's a very iconic route. It was one of the first routes put up over the course of 18 months and eventually was brought down to being completed in 24 hours. And I hate even mentioning the fastest time because it makes Wade and I feel like we have a little bit of work to do. But it's under 3 hours from bottom to top. But yeah, it's a big undertaking, and one of the things that appeals to me most about it, we've got a lot of runners that are listeners and also climbers, is to me it was the ultimate combination of climbing and endurance running. It's just go, 1 foot or 1 hand in front of the other, and for us it was 23 hours and change, and it was an incredible experience.
When you went to climb this thing, as soon as you left the ground, there was no turning back.
Russ, that's very accurate. Wade and I took one 60-meter rope, which means that once we got to the first pitch we had 30 pitches left, and there was no way for us to get down to the ground unless we reached the top and hiked down or called a helicopter for rescue.
Hashtag commitment.
It was. And you know what? To be honest with you, sure, it's not the most... it wasn't bringing your 10 essentials, that's for sure. But it did completely negate that feeling at every belay. We're like, should we continue? Because there was no question. We were going up.
It simplified things for you a bit.
Certainly.
Well, I just think, this podcast experience has been really interesting for all of us. I mean, we're sitting around the table. We got Jimmy Funkhouser, who just took a major leap in a different way and just left his job and created this awesome mountain outdoor adventure shop. And you're running a 200-mile race because you're insane, obviously. We heard.
Even a runner.
I would encourage our listeners to backtrack to episode 3 if you haven't listened to it, or 4. We're not sure what we're labeling all these yet. Where Nick, who hadn't run more than 7 miles continuously, he likes to point out, in his life before January, signed up and did the Dirty 30 recently, about June 4th, so just about a month ago. We've got Cory right here, who also ran the Colorado 200 and who is just... I don't know. What do you call? He's a YOLO. He's just down for anything. Whatever you want to jump into. You got Katie to my right here, who does adventure racing. While first of all, we've got to get you back on the show to talk about raising kids while trying to do this insane stuff, and your husband as well, because I imagine he must be really good with kids.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Sacrifices a lot.
And a normal weekend to you is going out and doing the Niwot Challenge and swimming across a rushing river that most people would literally die trying to do. And to my left, we've got Jason, who we just talked to, who just squeezes every minute out of the day to do some crazy mountain adventure, and just got back from the picnic. I don't think we did the stats. 1.2 mile swim.
I think it's officially 21 mile.
I think it's
bike.
You guys don't even know it. You just we just did it. We
we
didn't even study.
just wanted to get to the top of the Grand Teton.
Just wanted to get to the top of the Grand.
No, it's 21 miles from Jackson to Jenny Lake, 1.3 miles across.
I actually looked at my Strava. I will say this. I looked at my Strava, and it looked like 1.7.
I'll take that.
So I'd be a little happier with my
backstroke?
time if it's 1.
Yeah, backstroke is way more efficient.
Oh yeah, Jason came up with this new swimming stroke. We haven't touched on this, but it's
did.
called the picnic backstroke. And
Oh, I like
if
it.
anybody wants lessons, he's given some pointers. So if you're
That's
thinking about
accurate.
doing
We're gonna get that video up on dispatchradio.com.
you got to
for
do
sure.
the picnic though to actually get a lesson. So
I'm
very
down.
true.
Are we? This is commitment
do.
time of the podcast. It's getting to be wrap up time where we usually commit to something that we probably aren't.
I just
ever
wanted
gonna
to know. I was there at the same time that you guys were doing that, and I was doing touristy stuff
Yeah,
with my family
pathetic.
and other families. And that water is really cold.
Yeah.
So do you wear wetsuits at least, or are you just that badass?
I'm just glad you didn't hit us on the tourist boat. I was watching these ferry boats go across while Eric and I were cruising through the water in our black camo wetsuits.
that may have been the most dangerous thing we did that day.
That's hilarious.
on the way back.
Yeah.
It wasn't the unprotected free climbing with 1,000 feet of just drop off. It was the tourist boats. And
Tourist
avoiding them.
boats.
Yeah. So we didn't finish the stats though. So what? How long was the swim?
We'll call it 1.3 is
We'll go
is what
1.3.
they have on the
All
site.
right. And the bike,
Bikes, we'll go 21.
21.
Each
And then
way.
we said the hike.
Hike is 20 miles round trip, so 10 miles up
Yeah.
over 7,500 feet of gain, and then you reverse it through 5-4 terrain, and then you swim yet again. My favorite part of the whole day, which Eric looked super strong at that point. Another 1.3 and another 21 miles back to Jackson.
I gotta say, my initial reaction when I saw the video, which we also have up on our website, explaining the race, was that looks awesome, and I want to do it next weekend.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think I physically could, but I would love to do it.
I'd say one of the most memorable parts about the whole morning was my wife and crew chief has put a strobe light across the lake in the morning at about 3 a.m. And there's no way Eric and I would have made it without that blinking light in the middle of the night. Just one stroke at a time towards literally just swim, go to the light.
Yeah.
was all we were doing.
We would have ended up. Who knows where we would have ended up if that strobe light wasn't there? But yeah, that was probably one of the most unique things I think about. That was swimming in Jenny Lake at 3 a.m. was kind of pretty bizarre. Felt like I was kind of swimming through space. I couldn't tell if I was moving forward or what I was doing.
Wow.
And to end off around the table, I mean, Erik, who, again, listeners, episode 1, make sure to listen to the end because he shares an incredible story of adventure racing in the Brazilian jungle, swimming through alligator, excuse me.
Oh, they're crocodiles,
Oh,
actually.
so
I think I
had it
actually
right
said
first
it
time.
wrong that whole interview.
Crocodile.
Or
Well,
whole
we
story,
got
so-
corrections going on right now, so perfect.
Yeah.
Crocodile
I'll correct
infested waters with jaguars, a very densely populated area with jaguars. Hilarious story, also frightening.
And it teaches you how to avoid Africanized killer
It
bees.
does.
There's actually lessons involved. Yeah.
True story.
Jimmy, what are your thoughts? You've just started an outdoor company. You've said these are the kind of guys that are your kind of target demographic. Tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic to hear the variety of adventures that are available, not only in Colorado but just in general for people that want to explore. You know, that's what we're passionate about here, and it's just fun to hear about all of the different unique ways that people find that in their lives. It's inspiring to me, you know, and I know that's what's inspiring for everyone, particularly being here in Colorado. You know, not very many people are from here. Most people chose to be here, and those people are living intentional lives. And I'm surrounded by a few of those right now, and it's just neat to hear the different approaches people are finding to kind of create that adventure in their lives. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and there was an idea tossed out earlier. Jason, was it you? Who had it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Jimmy's wall here, and I can pick out the entire Nolan's collection, if you will, and that'd be a great package to
Sell
kind
it
of
as a
bundle
package.
for
Yeah.
folks.
We're going to have to bundle that up for you guys. We'll make that happen.
All right. Party
That's it.
thoughts? Nick, take us out of this episode.
Nick, what's your next adventure?
Yeah. We
Other than
committed
the
to the
house.
mummy.
I do anticipate talking to someone about an upcoming 6-hour adventure race for beginners.
Yeah.
Seeing as
That
how
might be the next thing.
That sounds good.
I've had it on my list since I was a wee lad, and now I actually have the capability to do that. But other than that, I'm definitely looking for a date to go do the mummy kill.
Yeah,
that?
Mummy kill, mummy mania, slap your mummy. I think we all
Mummy Madness.
mummy madness.
Mummy Madness. In the Estes Park? Rocky
Exactly.
Mountain National Park?
Exactly. You just-
Tackling the mummy range?
Exactly.
Yeah, we're definitely doing that. We committed to that in what we're calling the lost episode. So we're not sure anybody's ever going to actually hear that episode, but maybe. We'll see. Katie, a big part of our podcast is getting people excited and into these types of pursuits. Convincing them it doesn't have to be intimidating. Your race obviously is a great example of that. Why don't you share some details of how people can find out about this race? Tell us just a little bit about what it entails, and then we will wrap.
All right, yeah, thanks, Russ. To register for the Never Summer Adventure Race, it's myjourneyracing.com. It's August 6th and 7th. The 6-hour race is August 6th, starts at 10:30, ends at 4:30. There's going to be a sweet after-race party with some beer and food. So come out and do some paddling and some running, trekking, hiking, whatever, and some biking, all while navigating and some little teamwork. The 24-hour race starts 9 a.m. on Saturday, August 6th, ends 9 a.m. on August 7th. It's just a beautiful area. If you haven't been to the Grand County area, it's Indian Peaks Wilderness, Never Summer Wilderness, Rocky Mountain National Park. You're just surrounded by all that, and it's really cool.
What kind of gear do we need to bring? Do we need our own
specifics,
boats
'cause we're doing this.
Do I need to,
Yeah, excellent question. I need to be more clear about that. You do not need to bring your own boat or paddle or PFD. That will be provided. You need to have a hydration, like a pack to carry some water, some food, a compass, emergency blanket, whistle, bike, helmet, and that's about it. 24-hour racers, you need to have a few more things like lights and raincoat and some things like that. But the 6-hour race, we try to keep it pretty minimal.
So
Nick,
August
let's do
6th,
the
that
24
means
hour.
that means Cory needs to get this thing edited together so people can hear about it.
It should be easy. We're doing the 24-hour, Nick.
I'll do the 24-hour with you, Cory.
Do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Okay. I should include both courses have a lot of optional points. So people that are not moving as fast or having a bad day can choose to opt out of those points and still finish on time.
Every day I wake up is a good day.
Can we be a team?
Yeah. So it's teams of 2, 3, or 4. So no solos allowed for this one.
Cool.
All right, and most of the gear that you listed out, I think you can get here at Farrell Mountain Company here on Tennyson Street in Northwest Denver. And with that, we're going to give a salute to Boulder Beer and say cheers, guys, to your next adventures.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming out to the map room. Cheers, Dale. Cheers.